We're live.
Yep, we're live.
Well, here we go. Thank you very much, Phil, from across the world, telling us we're live. You need friends in all places. So I want to welcome everybody today to Skywire, and hopefully, whatever we get today, we're just going to beam all over the world to each and every one of us, and we're going to feel it from our hearts. So the subject is listening, and listening shows itself in all kinds of places in all kinds of ways. And I believe the more we can share our listening, the more we can spread the word listening, the more we can share those ahas that we have of where listening took us, the more peaceful we'll all feel, and the more united and the most fulfilling human experience we'll have. So let me introduce to you all, and thank you all for being here today. I know that your time is precious, and there's all kinds of things going on, so thank you so much for being here and spending it with us. Let me tell you who's in our room with us today. So it's Phil Ashton from Cornwall, UK, and Tracy Baker from Taos, New Mexico. So I want to welcome them here with us today. Good morning, or what time is it in UK?
It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, so it's not good morning to you, it's good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yeah. Well, welcome to you both. Thank you so much for being willing to be here. And, I put out there that if anybody wanted to be in the green room and just hang out and chat and share, that they were welcome to. And both Tracy and Phil said they would, and so did Kristen, but she is not available today. She has a family emergency, but hopefully she'll be with us next week. But in the future, if any of you would like to join us in the green room, please feel free to let me know. It'd be our pleasure to have you. So last week we had our first authentic show. We talked about listening, and Tracy and I were in the room, and we said, okay, this week we're going to say, okay, we're going to put it out there, and we're going to come back today and share some of those things that we learned through listening. Where did listening take us? So that was what we did. Well, Phil wasn't with us last week. So he's coming in today, and he's coming in green, in the green room, but not so green. And he's going to share with us some of his experience of listening and why he chose to be in the room with us today. So first, good morning, Phil. Good afternoon again, and Tracy.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, so Phil, why choose to be with us today?
I think the name of the show resonated with me because I've been going through quite a hectic period in my business and in my life, and I had a couple of moments where going out taking some photographs, where instead of just seeing it as another task that I had to go and do for my clients, I was able to just be in the moment, be still, listen. Not just listen. First of all, I was just listening to the environment, to pick up the kind of feel for the area. Because I always like to think when I take photographs, I'm taking the photograph through the eyes of the heart. So instead of just clicking the shutter, I'm trying to tune in to what something feels like, and to do that you have to listen. And it reminded me then that when I'm going to see a client about something completely different, instead of thinking of my own agenda, I must cover this and I must cover these other 2 points, that I should actually listen to what they need, to what's in, what are their needs, and then I can do my job better. And also it means that it slows me down. But I also do yoga as well as all the other business things that I do, and it teaches me to listen to myself and to seek out moments of stillness and silence.
That was beautifully said. And I have something to share to something that you said, and the interesting thing is I brought it with me to share today, and it is perfectly in alignment to what you were just speaking about being in silence. Because you can listen in silence. That's a great way, but we have to learn to listen even amongst the noise. We have to be able to take our listening and cut through the noise to really what's going on. We need to be able to break through the clatter and the chitter and all the stuff, the horns and the sirens and all that thing, to get to the meaning, get to what's really going on. So we have to practice on all levels. But this came to me a little while ago, and for me, it was one of those profound moments, and wanted to share it. So slowing down expands our container, and time stands still. So slowing down expands our overall container of what we can handle, and then time stands still when we do that. Our container gets bigger, and we're able to handle more. So just a little caveat, a little note to what you just said. And that was great. And my aha has something to do with using my body, and I'll share that after maybe Tracy gives some information about her week in listening. But I had a similar feeling about using my body yesterday that was like, whoa. So I want to share that. But Tracy, you go ahead. So you were here last week.
I was. It was fun. Couldn't wait. It's a wonderful, especially going into the weekend, the wonderful intention to think about listening. And I shared it a little bit in the green room, but what you just said in your quote really was exactly my week. Being aware of the challenge to listen, it really opened my eyes to how much I don't and how much other people don't. And I'm on the phone with somebody and my computer's going off and my notifications and my Twitter feed is feeding and all of this. And while I'm on the phone, oh, let me go get my earbuds in so I can still work. And, you know, what am I actually paying attention to as my container gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because I can't listen to all of that. It's all just running through me and nothing's sticking or staying. And a couple of times in the beginning of the week, I found myself, it's like, no, I'm hiding my earbuds. I'm just going to hold the phone like in the olden days and go sit in my chair and pay attention to the conversation. And it was just an amazing experience to really focus on the listening part of our everyday life. And I love what Phil said about the yoga. One of my very good friends just got her yoga certification, and when you're in a yoga practice, your body is listening to everything. Your breathing, your awareness, your feet on the ground. It's just yoga is such a listening awareness. I'm glad you brought that up, Phil.
Thank you.
So let me ask you all something. So you all brought up some really cool points. So I had an experience yesterday, and I want to know if you think this makes sense or not. And this is really important. So when I was working out yesterday, you know what crunches look like? You know, when you're doing ab work and you're crunching, you know, you can go up from your upper body to your knees. You can also crunch. You can go like this is your top, this is your bottom, and they can kind of meet. I have been trying to do that full crunch for weeks, and my body just would not go. My top would go, my body would kind of go crazy. It would just never come together. Yesterday, all of a sudden, I did it, and it was working. It was like this. It was great. It was perfect. The feeling was extraordinary. And it dawned on me, in that split second, my body has been listening. And I got this amazing feeling that my body was tuned in, and it got how to work together, how my upper body could work with my lower body, and it was a perfect feeling.
Can I
go ahead.
Just interject? When you succeeded in doing that, did you find that you were probably trying less as well? You weren't trying as hard.
Probably, maybe so. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I think that's because when you listen, when you really listen, your ego is not connected, and you don't force, you feel. So I think you don't try as hard because you're not really so attached to what you think should happen, and you sometimes find it just happens.
You know, that's brilliant. That's really brilliant, because it's true. Because if you are in your ego, you have the agenda, you have this, you have that, you have your history, you have all of those things, and when you just allow the listening just to happen, you don't have those barriers. It's pure listening, and you're not
Exactly.
attached.
Yeah.
That's. I think we just lost
Yeah.
Tracy. We just lost Tracy, but I'm sure she'll come back. That's a great point. And so let me ask. So memory. So then I said, okay, my body remembers. And then I thought, okay, so now memory and listening are connected.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? What is the connection, do you think, between memory and listening?
I think it's almost a sense of ease that once your body has the memory, the muscles start to remember what's required of them. There's less effort. You'll find that there's less effort in doing something, and there's less resistance from you wanting to try that again. And I think your body kind of comes into, you mentioned earlier, like everything comes into alignment, that your body understands where you're trying to take it, and it's not fighting it. It's not
Right.
thinking how many more of these are there to go. It's actually
Right.
thinking, this is okay, this is all right, this isn't what I thought.
So memory is listening.
Yeah, I think so, but it's memory in the here and now, so that the memory is it's a memory that isn't carrying anything. It's not carrying doubt or over expectation. It's a pure kind of first memory that doesn't fall one way or the other, because memories usually come along with things
Right.
from the past, or either something from the past or something on the future, which means you're not quite sure what might happen. So I think why a yoga pose works so well is because while you're in it, you can't really think of anything else, otherwise you might fall over. So it really brings you into the present moment. Or doing crunches, because while you're doing those crunches, you're putting a certain amount of effort into it, so that you can't be thinking of your shopping list or
Right.
or that email you haven't sent.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Right. You have to be in the zone.
Yeah.
You got to be right. Yeah. You got to be in the zone where your heart and your head are working together.
Yes.
There's a word. There's a word for that, and it's called coherence. It's being coherent.
Yes.
Being right there, present. Tracy,
Awake.
did you miss awake? Exactly. We were talking about this thing and the relationship that if you listening is egoless. Like if I had my ego with me yesterday when I was doing the crunch, then I would have been too focused on trying to do it right, as opposed to my body being free to be at its best and to allow for this to happen.
Yeah, I think a certain aspect of listening is letting go.
Yes.
Letting go of stuff, so you can listen.
Yeah.
And being open to the fact that if you let go of the result, if you stay in the moment, which we are taught, which yoga practices and physical exercise is, if we stay in that moment of connection to ourselves and connection to each other, yes, there is very little ego involved in any of that. I'm currently reading The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer in my book club, and Singer calls it sitting in the seat of self. And I have designed, I'm a visual person, visualizer, visual learner. My dream board is massive. I have this beautiful lounge chair that is the seat of myself. And it's got a beautiful ottoman to it, and I can go sit there, and it's a comfortable, loving, warm space. And when you get into a practice of listening to others and connecting eye to eye, you can go and just sit in that chair and be ready for a conversation. And you're right, I hadn't put it together before, but there is no ego involved in that. You're not planning what you're going to say next. You're not already going to be proving your point, because we do that in conversation. You're just going to sit and connect and be aware of the interchange. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so the trust. You're talking about trusting yourself. You're talking about just letting things go and just trusting in whatever happens, and that you know that whatever happens, happens. And there's nothing you couldn't figure out or handle or whatever. It's all going to be okay. Nothing can be that bad.
No, it's actually it's trying less, trying
Yeah.
not as hard. It's just going with the flow, really.
Yeah.
And it means listening to, like we have the comment tracker, and it's coming in from different shared sources. It means listening to whatever source is wherever the sound is coming from. So not just a voice inside you, which could be your ego, which could be working for you or against you, or the voice from someone externally, or the environment. It's listening to everything. Without judgment.
Exactly. And everything, and I think I said this last week, but everything gives off information. Everything. What we taste, what we smell, what we touch, how we feel, everything gives off information. And it's a kaleidoscope of information. And so the greater our listening, the ease in which we can listen to all of these things, our taste buds. I mean, then we know, I'm tasting this. Do I like it? Do I like it? Or was this something I was told I should like from when I was growing up? I mean, who really likes this anyway? You know, if I'm touching something, that feels really good. Or do I really like the way this feels? Or did somebody tell me this is a good feeling thing, and I just went ahead and listened to them? It's being able to understand and get to the difference, so then be who we're supposed to be and be good at it. Go ahead.
That's
Tracy.
Interesting. That's interesting. You brought up the site. We've been talking about food a lot in another my Healthy You community here, and making food pretty, making your healthy food pretty, so it tastes better. Because you do listen with your eyes of, oh, that is beautiful, it's going to nourish me, and it's a beautiful salad, as opposed to a yummy mound of mashed potatoes with butter and gravy. And
yeah,
if we can start listening with all of our senses, it's just, and the apple, or whatever, zucchini, spinach, whatever the yucky stuff is out there, ooh, I'm just supposed to like this because it's healthy for me, as opposed to, listening to your taste buds say that fresh and wonderful energy that's going into my body, as opposed to the potato chip that's telling you, I'm going to clog your arteries and sit on your thighs for a couple of years. That's an interesting point, listening with all of our other senses too.
I would say that listening is the kahuna sense.
The what?
It's the kahuna of senses. It's like the big sense of senses. It's the big kahuna. It really is. It's like, I don't know if you would call it it's the umbrella. It pieces everything together. It's the bridge for everything.
Well, it helps you make the right decisions, doesn't it? It makes you help the right decisions. I mean, if I'm sitting in front of a computer all the time, and I'll start to get bored with the project that I'm on, and I'll think, well, maybe I need to eat some chocolate. Not because I'm hungry, just because I think I should, because it breaks up the journey that I'm currently on. But as you say, if you're listening, I'll listen and think, maybe I don't need to have that, because I'm not really hungry at all. I'm just doing that because I think I should.
Exactly.
And equally, if you're going to meet a client and you think, or a work colleague, and you think you've already worked out what you think the conversation is going to be about, so you start working out in your own mind what you're going to say to them, and then what they might say back to you, and even worse, you then start to think what you might say back to their response, and none of that is real, none of it's happened, but your body will react as if it's really going on. So I think listening gives you a chance to disconnect from all of that, and instead of like sailing across choppy waters, you can bring a sense of a stillness, a nice still lake to sail across during your day-to-day life.
Right.
Do you find it easier to listen to your or do you listen differently to your business colleagues than you do your family members? You mentioned your wife earlier. My husband's out of town, so I'm just listening to nothing besides the lovely voice in my head. And I didn't really have a chance this week to practice listening to and putting practice listening into my husband and I's relationship, besides on the phone, which it's not the same. And that's the other question I wanted to ask. Do you find listening to the phone a disconnect because you don't have your other senses to listen to?
I don't listen to people differently. I just try and see everybody as the same. I try and stop myself from interrupting, and if I am interrupting, it's because my ego has suddenly thought, oh, I know what they're going to say here, and I have a great response, and I've absolutely stopped listening when that happens. And that doesn't mean I don't do that, because I do find myself doing that when I get over enthusiastic about something and I think, oh, I've got to say this next bit, and it means I've stopped listening, because it could be that that person's going to say something that's probably the same as what I was going to respond with, or will actually will enrich what I might have been going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say, I have something to add to this piece, and then we're going to take some comments. Tracy, are there comments? Are there people asking anything on the comment stream?
I don't know. We might have to ask Phil that, because when I had to pop out and pop back in, I can't get it running again.
Okay. Phil, are there comments?
No, no, not at this point in time.
Okay. Well, I have something to add to what we were just talking about, but if anybody would like to share your thoughts, your thinking, your listening, something that occurred to you this week, please feel free to share them with us, and we'll bring them up, and we'll listen, and we'll talk about it. I heard things that you said, Phil, about making decisions, and I wanted to just address that in relationship to some of the other things that you both were saying about people and their differences. So there are people who are very creative. They might sometimes have a more difficult time making a decision because they see many possibilities in something. So when you are aware that you are a creative soul, and being aware that, yeah, hey, I see, I can see the room this color, but I can also see it this color. I can see the book jacket look like this, but I can also see it like this. If you have that awareness about yourself in making decisions, then that helps make the decision, because there's an acceptance in knowing that, yeah, I am a creative being, and I do have a difficult time making decisions, not because I just have a difficult time making decisions. It's because you're creative and you see all the different possibilities and things. So listening to yourself on that level is very supportive. The same thing if you are somebody who's more emotional about things. Could be a little different than the way somebody else is. It's not like, oh gosh, I wear my emotions on my sleeve and it's, I can't do this and I can't. It's not that. It's just that you're an emotional person. You feel emotion maybe a little deeper on some level than somebody else. So it might be harder to make decisions for that energy because, what if I'm wrong? But just the awareness doesn't have to stop you. It's just an awareness to check in and say, okay, this is how I am. This is how my energy is now. My energy could be different later, but right now, this is how my energy is. And when you do that, you're able to work with yourself in a more forgiving, freeing manner, as opposed to making what we do wrong. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think if you are a creative person, and obviously I live with a very creative person, and what I do as well is obviously has elements of creativity in it. I think you can come up with lots of ideas, but I think one of the worst things, and it's in a way is an example of not listening, is indecision. Mm-hmm. Because nothing causes more stress than indecision, because you just get stuck. and you end up just going hearing the same voices as you try and work out, should I do this, should I do that? The key thing is you should do something. And I always think there's only really two decisions. There's plan A, and if that doesn't quite work, then you go to plan B, and then you go back to plan A again. And I always think, because there's no step that you lose on the path. You know, as long as you're moving forwards, you're listening, because you learn that the key thing is not to attach yourself too much to a specific path and think, no, this is what I'm going to do, this is the decision I made, I'm going to do this no matter what. If you listen, you'll start to think, actually this isn't working, I need to adapt. And it's all about adapting, I think. So as a creative person, you're going to keep coming up with ideas and different solutions, and some things are going to work and some things aren't, and it's just having the awareness and the ability to listen to when maybe you need to change your plan.
Right, exactly. It's nothing. It's not bad. It's all good.
No.
Yeah, Tracy.
That's very interesting. And maybe it's just this in-depth study I'm doing of Singer's Untethered Soul, and his focus is the voice in your head, and how much do we listen to? For me, it's a girl. I said, go left, go left, go left. No, go right, go right, go right. No, go left, go left, go left. Oh, wait a minute, you should have stopped. Constantly talking, this person. And sometimes she's kind of negative. And our negative self-talk is a big issue, at least with anybody I talk to about it, is they admit they have some negative self-talk. And why do we listen more to our negative self-talk than to our accolades? Somebody told me the other day, you know, you are an angel. I think it might have been Marilyn. You know, do I say that to myself over and over again in her voice? Because sometimes I don't feel like an angel. Kristen, who helped us get guest tracker work or comment tracker working, you know, she was an angel for popping in this morning. I got to go tell her over and over again until she listens to how special and wonderful that was for her with her child and her life and everything else to pop in. But, you know, how often can we go to our head and listen to the positive and not the negative? And it just, anyway, it's all interesting work to really delve into the big kahuna of listening. Ha!
You know what, Tracy? When we listen, it's not going to be bad. It can't be any. When we tune into the listening that we're talking about, we're tuning into this universal energy. It can't be bad. It can't. No, the universal energy is not going to tell us we're bad. Universal energy is not going to tell us we're bad people. We've done this. We've done that. We're horrible. It can't be that way. It's impossible. Universal energy has to. It's loving energy. So if we're tuning into something that's negative, it's not the energy that we should be tuning into. That's our ego. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think as you go through life, you do collect this little voice that sometimes has doubts that sits on your shoulder, and I think the voice itself is very much probably on your side, because it wants you to avoid anything that's kind of embarrassing or may not work, or it's just it's remembering into the past when things may not have gone as you thought they would have done. And it's something, as we go through life, as we get older, I think that the voice sometimes can become too loud or whatever. But sometimes I just have a little post-it note on my computer screen, and it just says, "Are you sure?" So when I have this voice in my mind that's saying, I'm not, maybe this won't happen, or maybe this person might be thinking this, I just look at this and it says, "Are you sure?" And then you think, what facts do I have here to give this voice any, make this voice valid? And sometimes I think, I haven't got any facts, actually. I'm just completely making this up in my own head. There's nothing to say that what I'm about to do won't work at all. It might be fantastic success. So I always just ask myself, am I sure? You know, that if this voice pops up, and the voice just goes away then. Because if you watch little children, and you've got, you know, when kids are little, and you arrange a birthday party, and you invite everybody you think will be your son or daughter's friend at their party, and then you find out that actually they've fallen out with that person the day before and they hate them, and you think, oh, and then so you don't invite them, and then the next day you find out they're best friends again, and as if nothing ever happened. Or a child might cry and be devastated, and then 2 minutes later they're running about. Grown-ups have more problems with that.
Yeah.
Grown-ups can fall out with people for decades, but so I think it's letting go of the voice, or listening to the voice without any judgment, and just thinking, okay, that might be useful, but there's nothing to substantiate it, so I'm just going to let that go. So it's listening without judgment, which is quite a skill.
Yeah, and that's why it is such maybe that's what the life, not a long time ago, I realized that when you listen to your head is loud, boisterous, it's in your face. When you listen to your heart, it's not in your face. That's a journey. You have to go there. It's not going to be in your face. It's subtle, it's sensitive, it's soft. That's part of the journey of life, is following the heart. The head, you don't have to look for the head. It's right there. So anyway, well, we're almost out of time, so I just wanted to read one thing to everyone that I got this morning at perfect time, actually, and it says, it was from Neil Donald Walsh, so I get this every morning, but I get different ones. So, on this day of your life, dear friend, I believe God wants you to know that your agenda for this day has been set in your soul. The only question now is whether you will listen to that. Do you know why you are alive? Do you give voice and action and physicality to God to become the grandest version of the greatest version ever? The greatest vision you have ever had for yourself. What will you do with this? And that's basically a message that came to me today, so I thought, wow, I got to share that. So, in wrapping up,
just
Tracy,
before,
do you have any final words?
just before we wrap up, the
Yeah.
comment tracker isn't working. However, there's a couple of comments coming in from the outside, which I can't bring up on screen. It's from Jory Stacey.
Yes.
She said, I'm thinking that these concepts are a lot like playing in a band. You don't focus on the process, the music just happens and flows. It's muscle memory. You need to be aware of other people in the band and look at them to catch body language. There is an invisible communication going on.
Wow. Hold on, I have to adjust my thing right here. I just lost my... Okay, yeah. Well, that was a lovely thought.
Yeah, that's very, very nice. I think the idea of playing in a band and listening through a different communication language of music is a very good way of illustrating the idea of being aware of others and your surroundings. That's excellent.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll have to post that.
Okay, and there's another one from Christian Hancock, said, I acknowledge my inner voice, then move on, especially when it's negative. And so it's great advice from myself and Marilyn.
Terrific. Thank you. Well, thank you, Dory. Thank you, Christian. That was beautiful. And if you anybody in the next week, we're going to do this again. So if anybody else would like to join us in the room, please feel free to let us know. I hope Phil will come back. I hope Tracy, comes back, and we can pick up, and continue this great conversation. So, was there anything else, Phil, that you wanted to add?
No. I just want to say thank you very much, Marilyn, for inviting me onto the show. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being willing to be here. What about you, Tracy?
Fantastic conversation. Phil, I don't know if you're willing, but if you could go in the comments and write your questions. That is so fantastic. When that voice in your head pops up, you ask him, is it real? Or that was just a fantastic list of questions to carry on a conversation. I talk to my head all the time, and I just thought I was a weirdo, but you're asking yours questions, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, just ask, are you sure? Just put a little post-it note on your computer screen, on your telephone.
Okay, are you sure?
Are
I'm
you
gonna
sure?
have to get that on my dream board real quick. But you know, I think this is an amazing practice, an amazing awareness you're opening up for us to have these conversations and really delve into the concept of what we listen to. It's fantastic. Glad to be here. And Christian Drysdale, whose mother had an emergency, says that she wasn't able to set up this morning, but we're doing great. And then she gave us the little, you know, yellow man with his arms raising and a lot of hearts and loves. So she's out there watching probably from her phone, taking care of her mom. And we miss you, and we'll see you next week if you can be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I really hope she can come in. She's so beautiful, and she brings in such an element with her. So I do hope she can join us. And yeah, I think, you know, listening, when you talk about it and you say it, it seems like, oh yeah, well I do that, and yeah, well we do that, well we do. But the level that we're taking it to is something that is so juicy to talk about, and I don't want to just do it by myself. It's no fun. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say that. It's fun to have my ahas and to sit on the floor yesterday and laugh about that my body can crunch. But it's so much more fun to bring it together and talk about it. It's so much fun to hear what Phil has to say and what Tracy has to say and what you all out there have to say. It's much more fun that way. And when we bring it together and we all can listen to each other's listening, then we expand our containers and we all get like connected, and we realize how connected we really are and how much easier it really is. So I really appreciate all, you know, you being here, and I look forward to doing this next week. And, you know, here we go. We're on a listening journey.
Okay, thank you very much, Marilyn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.